Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk about the Halo Infinite campaign. I just recently finished up my playthrough of the Halo Infinite campaign all the way through. I did every single side quest. The only thing I have left to do is I have to collect a couple more armor lockers, and I have to get a couple more collectibles like audio logs and things of that nature. But I have completed every single high value target, every single fob. I've saved every soldier squad and answered all the distress calls and all of that. So I am completely done with the campaign entirely. I've done the main campaign and everything, and I wanted to just go ahead and give my review on the game in its current state and what I think about it. But before we get into today's video, I just want to say, according to YouTube, only 1% of you guys are subscribed. So if you'd like to help out the channel a lot, you can go down below, hit that subscribe button. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe later if you don't enjoy the content I make on this channel. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by this summer, and it would help me out a ton if you would just consider subscribing. But yeah, the first thing I want to go over is the story. I'm not going to go too in depth on this because I don't want to spoil you guys on the story. You can skip past if you don't want to hear anything about it at all, but I just want to briefly touch on it. I think the story in this game is actually one of the worst stories I've played in any Halo game ever. In comparison, except for like maybe Halo 5 and Halo 4. I think those games are slightly worse than Halo Infinite, but I still don't think Halo Infinite's story is that great. Halo Infinite's story is bad, in my opinion, because of two things. One, most of the storytelling is from outside of the main campaign. Most of the storytelling you learn through audio logs and through things like the legendary cutscene after the game's already over. You don't learn much about the campaign and what's going on in the campaign until you start looking at other things like audio logs and things of that nature. The storytelling itself is terrible in this game, and not to mention I actually just hate the story. The story is extremely boring and also extremely when I booted up the game, you could kind of tell what the ending was gonna be. It was pretty obvious what was gonna go down, and I just don't think that the story was very good. A lot of people may disagree with me on that, but I don't want to talk too much more about it because then I'll end up spoiling stuff. But I just don't think the story was very good. I think it was in my bottom 3 Halo games. And ironically, my bottom 3 Halo games, for campaign at least, is every single 343 game ever made. But next thing I want to talk about is the gameplay of the campaign. I think the gameplay of the campaign is probably its best part. And I think it's unfortunate, but I think that this game would actually play even better in co-op. Unfortunately, co-op's not coming till March, which is a whole nother topic. But the campaign is so much fun because of the core gameplay of Halo Infinite. Not because the campaign necessarily does anything different or unique. It's just because the core gameplay of Halo Infinite and the gameplay loop of that game is so great. Like the multiplayer and everything is just so great that the campaign is automatically getting carried by it. The open world, in my opinion, actually hurts the campaign and the gameplay more than it helps for a couple of reasons. One of which is most of the time when you're playing the Halo Infinite campaign, at least if you're doing what I'm doing, which is literally complete everything in the entire game, there's a lot of things that the open world hurts, like really makes you wonder, why is this an open world game? For example, majority of the world is completely empty and has nothing in it. For example, the north side of the map and also the east side of the map. If you go to the far northeast side of the map, there's literally nothing there except for main campaign missions. There's nothing else on that side of the map at all. There's no fobs, nothing like that. Not to mention, even on the parts of the maps that has a lot of stuff like fobs and armor cores that you need to go for and all those kinds of stuff, even they feel super dull and boring. They all look, every area of Halo Infinite looks exactly the same. It's either Forerunner structures or grass and trees and the occasional like wreckage. That's it. The world itself feels very empty. There's not a lot of content in between you doing side missions. Like if you're moving from side mission to side mission, everything between that is completely barren and there's pretty much nothing going on there. And the open world, in my opinion, hurts the most because of the fact that it's carried by the grapple hook. The map design of this open world is so terrible that to make it to a lot of locations, you can't bring vehicles. Most of your vehicles are going to be painfully slow to bring to a location or just damn near impossible. For example, the Scorpion, good luck getting that around the map. That thing is incredibly slow. The tank is incredibly slow, obviously for good reason. but it can't go pretty much anywhere that you would want to bring it. You want to bring a tank into the main missions? Good luck with that because they're blocked. You want to bring a tank into an outpost to make your outpost easier? Yeah, good luck with that because the doors are closed off. Hey, you want to bring a scorpion into a high value target? Good luck, he's at the top of a hill, so now you're gonna have to climb your scorpion all the way up the hill to get to it, or you're just not gonna get to it at all. The only vehicles in the open world that are useful, in my opinion, is the warthog, mongoose, and wasp. And in my opinion, the warthog is like arguably still useless because you can't bring it into outposts or anything. And also the marine code is so terrible that you can't really use it in a fight scenario. So realistically, I would say the wasp and the mongoose are the only things that are useful. Why is the mongoose useful? Because it gets you around the map fast and it's the fastest vehicle in the game. The wasp is good because it can get you over hills and actually be good in fight scenarios and can help you in distress call missions and in high value target missions. But you still can't bring any of those vehicles into a main mission because all of the main core campaign missions are linear missions, which means they're completely separate from the open world and they have nothing to do with the open world. The open world does not interact with them at all, which is a bit of a bummer and a huge missed opportunity because I feel like the campaign could have been so much cooler if every campaign missions took place in the open world. It would have added a lot more flavor to the gameplay of the main campaign missions, but it's whatever. And also, I think the main campaign missions are let down by the open world as well, because if you don't want to do side quests, if you don't want to waste your time with all that, the core gameplay, like the core campaign itself, like the linear missions, there's only 6 hours of gameplay in those. So if you don't enjoy the open world, your campaign experience is going to be significantly hindered because of the fact that there's so little content when it comes to the campaign missions. It's such a small game if you don't take into the consideration the open world. Another thing about the open world that's trash is that if you don't have vehicles, if you're just starting off in the campaign, the open world is absolutely the most annoying shit I've ever played. Without a grappling hook, this open world would be terrible. The grappling hook literally carries this Halo game because the grappling hook allows you to move through the map so much quicker. It literally makes my life and everyone else's life so much easier in the open world. If you didn't have this grappling hook, you would your time would literally double in the amount of time it would take you to get across the map. And also there'd be a lot of scenarios where you'd literally need a vehicle because, like, for example, you'd need a wasp or something to climb up a hill, but now you can just climb it with a grappling hook. So there's a lot of things that the grappling hook just completely carries this map through. And I think this open world is just absolutely terrible. Whoever designed this open world did a terrible job. I also want to talk about enemies. Enemies in the open world, and in Halo Infinite specifically, I think are very, very boring. Mainly because I just don't think there's enough variety in the enemy types. You've got your brutes, which there's like 50 different brute types. Which, I mean, it is the Banished, so I'm expecting that. But I was hoping that there would at least be unique gameplay with each one. No, it's just brute with shield, normal brute with pulse carbine, and then brute with gravity hammer, and brute that runs at you and tries to hit you. There's not that many unique enemies, and then there's also elites, and then there's the three different types of elites: the invisible elites, the tanky elites, and then the normal elites. And then there's grunts, which grunts have been in every Halo game ever, and there's also the shielded grunts and all that. But to me, the amount of enemies in this game is so incredibly like just repetitive and boring. But I think mainly that has something to do with the open world. But the camp, and also the high value targets and everything, feel like the same. How you're fighting the same high value target over and over and over again, and they don't really have any backstory. The high value target missions, literally, when you go into them, they're just like, hey, this guy's done a bad thing, kill him. You don't get any backstory as to like what he's done, and he doesn't get tied into the story at all. He's just kind of there, and you're like, hey, this guy killed some Marines in his life or something like that. And it's just, I just think the enemy variety and the bosses in this game are terrible. Even the main campaign bosses, in my opinion, were really bad. I only liked 2 of them. I'm not going to spoil their names or anything or like what their significance to the lore is, but one boss was 2 brutes One of them was on a brute chopper. The other one was like a jetpack guy who just kind of tried to avoid you. Both of them were you got to fight in the open world. This was one of the few missions that you got to do in the open world. And in my opinion, that was one of my favorite boss fights, just because it allowed you to take on the boss in so many different ways. And it was also two of them at once, which was an interesting idea. And then the other boss that I really enjoyed was the Invisible Elite. It was very scary the first couple of times I went against him on Legendary, but once you got the hang of it, you realized how you could beat him, and then it was a pretty fun boss fight from that point onward. But every other boss fight, in my opinion, was really not fun. I also think that the armor core system and the locker system is very lazy, and I think could definitely be improved. Armor cores and armor lockers only really serve as a purpose to kind of force you to explore parts of the open world that you wouldn't normally explore. That's their only purpose. They don't actually provide anything extra when it comes to gameplay, in my opinion. It's like, your grapple hook charges a little bit faster and it stuns enemies and stuff. And it's just, and your shields recharge faster. Your drop wall can take more damage. Your thrusters make you invisible after you thrust. It's just like, I think the armor core system was a very lazy way to add more content to Halo Infinite. And I think it's a cool system. I just think the way they implemented it was wrong. They're kind of using it as a collectible instead of, like, in my opinion, the way they should have done the armor core system is maybe as a reward for killing enemies or something. After you kill a certain amount of enemies, you get skill points or something like that. Because that, in my opinion, would have been a better system than forcing people to explore parts of the open world that they normally wouldn't explore, because of the fact that, in my opinion, the open world is terrible. I don't think that they should be using these systems as a way to get people to be like, yo, look at this big expansive open world. There's so much space. So now we're just going to fill it with collectibles and not actually do anything important with the open world. I think the armor cores is an extremely lazy concept. I went through and got all of them. So trust me when I say this, I hated every second of getting those armor cores. It was so incredibly tedious and boring, and I wish I never did them. And another collectible they like to use is skulls. And oh boy, do I hate skulls in this game. Why do I hate skulls? Because more than half of them are in main campaign missions. And what's wrong with the main campaign missions? You can't replay them. So if you don't know that there's skulls in the main campaign missions, like me, you have to completely do an entirely new playthrough and go back and get those skulls that you missed. Because in the main campaign missions, once you complete them, you can't go back and replay them again in the same playthrough. You have to make a completely new playthrough, go get yourself all the way back to that mission that you missed, that skull that you missed or whatever, and get the skull. This is an extremely dumb system, and I think you should be able to replay missions because of this thing. They like to hide collectibles in the missions, but then they don't let you go back and replay them. So it's like, so now I'm going to have to do an entirely new playthrough just to get skulls, which in my opinion is a really dumb system. Also, there is some skulls in the open world, but majority of them are inside main campaign missions, and you don't get told this. So I go into my campaign playthrough, and I'm thinking, yes, I'm finally done with the campaign, and then I go and Google how to get skulls, because I assumed that they were all going to be on the open world, just like armor cores, because I figured that was going to be their way of forcing people to explore their open world. But no, I found out I was wrong, and a good portion of them were in the campaign missions. So now I'm going to have to go back and do an entirely new playthrough to get all the skulls in the game. I just think overall this open world might as well not be an open world. I really don't think that this open world was the way to go. I think an open world Halo game is a really good idea. I just don't think they implemented it very well. And I think this open world is one of the worst open worlds I've ever played. And I just really hate this open world. It really irritates me. This Halo game is one of the few Halo games where halfway through the playthrough, I almost didn't beat the game. And that's just because I was so tired of the same thing over and over and over again. Go to Forerunner structure, fight enemies. Go to new Forerunner structure, fight enemies. Go to this structure, blow it up. Go to this structure, blow it up. Go save these Marines. Go kill this high value target. Go save Marines. Go kill this high value target. Oh, hey, there's a fob over here. Go capture this fob. Oh, hey, main campaign mission. More Forerunner structure. Fight enemy. It's just not fun. And then end of campaign mission. Fight boss. Big brute. He kill. This entire campaign is just the same repetitive shit over and over and over again. I know a lot of people might not like the way I'm saying this, or might think that I'm trying to be toxic, but I really want Halo to succeed, and I'm very disappointed in this Halo game because I think there is every other Halo game in the past has done a way better job of being a good campaign, and Halo Infinite has an open world, which would have been a massive. It's so much potential. The Halo campaign, the Halo Infinite campaign, had so much potential in an open world setting. And it's just so disappointing to see it be the way it is. I know there's a lot of people out there who really like the Halo Infinite campaign on YouTube. There's a lot of people who have been praising the Halo Infinite campaign. I just can't bring myself to do it. I truly do believe that 343 once again has dropped the ball with Halo. I would do a video explaining everything wrong with the multiplayer, but that would literally be a 2-hour long video if I talked about everything. But I might do one of those if you guys want me to do one. I despise this Halo game, not because of the core gameplay, but because of everything else around it. The story, the open world, the shop, and the battle pass system. There being no progression, the customization system, the lack of content in pretty much every way imaginable. We don't have co-op campaign on launch, which is some of the content that's missing. Most of the playlists and multiplayer are missing. Most of the weapons in previous Halo games are missing. They just go on and on and on about missing features and content. The only reason why I think a lot of people are praising the campaign of this game and also praising the multiplayer of this game is because every other game this year, AAA title-wise at least, has completely flopped and has released broken, buggy, or just terrible games. Like Battlefield 2042, which I just recently reviewed. And I think a lot of people give this game too much praise for how mismanaged it actually is. Okay, well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys want me to do a Halo Infinite multiplayer review, leave a comment down below. I'll read through the comments, and if enough of you comment for me to do it, I'll do it. Also, if you guys want to vote for future videos that I do on the channel, I do community posts about every 2 weeks, which allow you guys to vote on new videos that I make. So if you guys want to vote on my next video, just subscribe or come back to the channel in approximately another week, and you'll likely see a community tab post ready to go, and you guys can vote on it. But yeah, see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
You see here, kid, you gotta just go for it. Don't think about what comes after.